In 1961, a simple psychology experiment asked a disturbing question. If an authority figure ordered you to harm another person, would you obey? The volunteers believed they were helping with a study about memory and learning. But hidden inside a small laboratory at Yale University, something far more disturbing was about to unfold, and the results would shock the world. The experiment began with a simple newspaper advertisement. It offered $4 to anyone willing to participate in a psychology study. 40 men volunteered. They came from different backgrounds: teachers, salesmen, factory workers, ordinary people who believed they were helping science understand how humans learn. None of them knew the real purpose of the experiment. The volunteers arrived at Yale University. Inside the laboratory, they were greeted by a calm researcher wearing a gray lab coat. Everything looked professional, scientific, controlled. There was no reason to suspect anything unusual, but the room contained a strange machine that immediately caught their attention. A large device filled with switches and warning labels. The device was introduced as an electric shock generator. 30 switches were lined up across the panel. Each switch increased the voltage: 15 volts, 30 volts, 45 volts, all the way to 450 volts. At the end of the scale, the labels became frightening: danger, severe shock. Each session required 2 participants. One would be the teacher. The other would be the learner. The teacher would ask questions from a list of word pairs. If the learner answered incorrectly, the teacher had to deliver an electric shock. The voltage would increase with every mistake. What the volunteers didn't know was that the learner was actually an actor. The experiment began normally. The teacher read the first question. The learner answered incorrectly. The researcher calmly instructed the teacher to press the first switch: 15 volts. The learner reacted with mild discomfort, but it seemed harmless, just part of the experiment. So the teacher continued. As the questions continued, the voltage increased: 75 volts, 90 volts, 105 volts. Soon the learner began to protest. He complained about the pain. He asked to stop the experiment, but the researcher remained calm. He simply said one sentence: "Please continue." The shocks grew stronger. 150 volts. The learner shouted in pain. He demanded to be released. Some volunteers hesitated. They looked at the researcher, nervous, uncomfortable. But each time they questioned the experiment, the researcher calmly repeated the same instruction: "The experiment requires that you continue." Some volunteers began to sweat. Some laughed nervously. Others showed signs of extreme stress. Yet many continued to press the switches, again and again, even as the learner screamed, even when he begged them to stop. The authority of the researcher was enough to push them forward. At 300 volts, the learner stopped responding. The room fell silent. No more protests, no more answers, just silence from the other side of the wall. The volunteers looked at the researcher, unsure what to do next, but the instruction remained the same: "Please continue." In the end, the results shocked the world. 65% of participants continued delivering shocks all the way to 450 volts. even when they believed the learner might be seriously injured. Ordinary people had obeyed an authority figure, even when it meant harming another human being. The Milgram experiment revealed something deeply unsettling about human behavior. Under the pressure of authority, many people will obey orders they know are wrong, not because they are cruel, but because the situation makes obedience feel unavoidable. And that raises a disturbing question. How far would you go?